If you did not get the message, AEW is pretty blatant about a big signing of theirs, a massive get. The best in the world, Shane McMahon, is coming to AEW.
The contract does say McMahon, but it's not you. It's Stephanie McMahon.
All right, so pretty blatant, over the head at this point. It's probably safe to say AEW has indeed signed CM Punk, or else they're just being total dicks and is going to get major backlash if it's not true.
Massive trolling would be amazing, but at the same time would piss off so many people.
Yeah, it would be a very, very, very bad thing if they did that. So kind of the big announcement. So we actually had two massive things happen on this that was not expected to happen. The first one, that was what we're talking about right here. They announced that they will be doing Rampage on the 20th of August from the United Center. So their secondary show they're going to do in the United Center in Chicago that holds 17,000 people. If they don't do something big for that, they're going to have a riot on their hands.
Yes. Yes.
And then the other big one here, which really throws a loop into the story, that in the first match of this show, the team of Hangman Page and the Dark Order do not win the match. They lost, and it ended up with Kenny Omega hitting the One-Winged Angel on Hangman and pinning him.
In the middle of the ring, after some shenanigans by the Jackson brothers.
Yep. And a belt shot.
At least one belt shot.
Yep. So definitely wondering where that is going to go. So they're going to string that story on a bit longer, it looks like. I don't really have a problem with this. I was kind of shooting for Hangman to take the title off of Omega at Revolution in the winter, because that would kind of make the most sense instead of taking the title off of Kenny this quickly. I still think there's plenty of time for Kenny to hold that title, and it really doesn't. That's my problem. It doesn't make sense to take the title off of Kenny now, and having Hangman lose to Kenny in a title match is something that shouldn't happen either. So I'm okay with them putting this out to Revolution in February.
And don't they have some kind of multi-man match where the winner gets a title shot at All Out?
Do they do that match? I think last year they did kind of that. No, they did that tournament. Oh no, that was after Full Gear though, right? So maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I think actually no. They're bringing it back for the women. So they're doing the women casino battle royale at All Out instead of the men's. They did the men's at Double or Nothing, so they're going to do the women's. So they're bringing that back. So I don't know if they're going to have another one for the men.
What about the ladder match with the big giant casino chip?
Well, that would have made more sense at a Double or Nothing.
I know, but I thought last year they did that at
Double or Nothing in Vegas. Or no, yeah, it would have been in Vegas normally, but Double or Nothing, yeah.
But then the casino battle royale was it all? So like,
yes.
Calling something a casino something should happen at Double or Nothing.
Yes,
like,
I agree.
This is where my confusion is coming from. Is They did something that you would think would be at Double or Nothing at All Out.
Yep. So, I don't know. We will see how this plays out, but I am fine with them pushing this for Hangman to take it off of Omega at Revolution in February. I think that would be the best time frame to do it. I still think there's plenty to go. I mean, we're looking at, 6 months at this point until February? So I think they can. I think they can make it work.
Yeah, a little over 6 months.
Yeah, I think they can make it work. There's still plenty of story. There's still plenty of challengers for Omega running up to then. We still haven't gotten our one-on-one match with Orange Cassidy. That like dropped off the map 2 weeks after Double or Nothing. So they need to circle back and get Orange Cassidy his one-on-one match. And then probably the same thing, Pac getting a one-on-one as well.
Yeah.
All right, so before we get into the rest of the show, you're listening to the That's Wrestling podcast. If you're listening to this as a podcast, we do the show live on Twitch and on YouTube. You can follow the links in the show notes for those channels. And there is a link to our Discord as well. You can come hang out. If you have any comments, question, feedback, you can send those to eric@thatswrestling.com or send us over on the Twitter. At That's Wrestling 1 with the number 1. And with me tonight, I have back Darryl W. Perry. You can find him at Darryl W. Perry on the Twitter. How's it going, man?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
It has been a very soggy winter over here in the Northeast where we live.
Summer. It's summer.
Yes, it
right
is
now.
summer.
Here.
It's Australian winter. It has been raining so much.
It's the most wintry summer that we've ever had.
Yeah, there you go. But it has been raining so much. It is just like I can't even mow part of my lawn because it's just a puddle. And even with like a week straight of no rain, I still have a puddle because there was just so much rain previous. So my hiking trails that I like to use are just freaking mud puddles at this point. My dog comes back and she's got mud up to her shoulders basically when we go out for a hike. Yeah, it's a mess out there.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into this show. This show is emanating from Charlotte, North Carolina. AEW Dynamite Fight for the Fallen, July 28th, 2021. And we kick it off with the 5-on-5 elimination match of Hangman Page, John Silver, Alex Reynolds, Evil Uno, and Stu Grayson versus Kenny Omega, Matt and Nick Jackson, Doc Gallows, and Karl Anderson. And boy, did they have an awesome video package for Hangman and the Dark Order. It was so good.
Yes, it was.
They just had like this it was a really like old down south low voice narrator talking about, you know, you don't need to wear a hat to be a cowboy and all this other stuff. It was great. It was so awesome.
Yeah, it reminded me of like a movie trailer for a Western.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So Dark Order, Hangman, they get one hell of an entrance, and then the Elite come out and they have the most pretentious entrance. Yeah, the Elite Squad. They have the most pretentious entrance ever. It was great. So they come out, they're all wearing like basketball jerseys. Dawn is wearing like short running shorts that are like way too short for Dawn.
Not running shorts. He was wearing 1980s basketball shorts.
Yeah. I mean, you probably can't find them these days.
Bird style.
There you go.
Yeah,
yes.
But they were like the Larry Bird style basketball shorts.
Oh my god, it was so funny. Both Matt and Nick get introduced as being 6'6", which is just really funny. They had a basketball hoop set up at ringside that was much lower than regulation, so they could all dunk. So it was just pretentious as hell for the introduction.
Yeah, and they came out to like the Chicago Bulls 1990s music that sounded like somebody found the old Jock Jam CD.
Yes.
And put it in. And they announced Kenny Omega as being from North Carolina. And Kenny Air Omega, and he had number 23. And of course there was a promo, a live read for the new Space Jam movie.
Yes.
But yeah, so Omega was number 23. One of the Jacksons was 777. The other Jackson was 13. Karl Anderson was 2012. For some reason, I don't get the reference
Not
there.
sure.
And then Doc Gallows was 69.
Let's see. What would make sense for 2012 for Karl Anderson?
Was that the founding of Bullet Club?
Has it been that long? I mean, it could have been. Bullet Club. Let's see. No, 2013 for Bullet Club. Maybe it was when he went to New Japan. I don't know. All right.
Possibly.
So this match starts off, and it is just a brawl pretty much out of the gate. Alex Reynolds ends up giving a suplex to Nick off the top rope to the floor onto the pile, and he misses most everybody. And he just crashes and burns on the floor. Reynolds ends up being the first. Reynolds is out first when Anderson. Wow, this is totally wrong. Anderson gets out first when he gets hit with a fatality. My notes are totally wrong. Reynolds out, then Anderson out with a fatality from the. What are we supposed to call that team now? Just the two of them, Evil Uno and Stu Grayson. They used to be the Super Smash Brothers. Then they were Dark Order because it's just the two of them. And now I don't know what to call them.
They're still Dark Order. There's just multiple Dark Order teams.
Yeah. So
one and two. Just call them Uno and Dos.
There you go.
Dark Order, Uno, and Dos.
We have an awesome alley-oop powerbomb from Uno and Grayson on Matt. Matt gets beaten up for a while. Gallows accidentally gives him a big boot. Stu hits this twisting springboard moonsault to the floor. Again, not too many people got a hold of him, and he crashed and burned. So, geez, you have 8 people down below, and you still get dropped on these 2 dives. Yeah.
Luckily, his head broke the fall.
Yes. I
see that, but he didn't actually land on his head, but his head hit the floor pretty hard.
Yeah, he whiplashed and hit his head. Stu Grayson and Doc Gallows, they brawl out into the crowd. They end up both getting counted out. So Omega and Uno brawl. Some good work from Uno, but he ends up eating the one-winged angel, and Uno is eliminated. John Silver is pissed at this point, and he attacks Matt, but then the Elite beat up John, and we get a massive leg lariat from Nick on John, and then Nick takes a basketball break, and he's dribbling the ball in the ring, and Matt puts up a hoop with his arms in the corner. Nick is the greatest heel at this point. He's just such a major douche.
Yeah, and I believe this spot came during the second commercial break of the match.
Yep. Bucks give...
this match went for a long time.
Yeah, it went like 30 minutes almost. So Hangman gets apron bombed by the Bucks. Silver is still the legal man, though. Silver gets a burst of energy. He runs wild, hits everybody, ends up with an airplane spin to Nick for a 2 count. Kenny runs in, V-trigger, suplex to Silver. Brandon pulls the basketball hoop setup that they had ringside over towards the ramp. And the Bucks set up for an indie taker, and they try to do an indie taker with a dunk, but Nick misses the dunk. So this is where they chant something we couldn't tell what they chanted.
Yeah, they called it the Phi Slamma Jamma Indie Taker. Phi Slamma Jamma being, I forget if it was University of Houston or the Houston Rockets back in the 80s. Or basketball people.
They get John back into the ring. Bucks hit BT trigger, and he is eliminated. So now it is just Hangman and the Elite, Matt, Nick, and Kenny. Kenny is in the ring waiting for Hangman. Hangman walks right up to him. Kenny spits in his face. They brawl. Kenny hits a V-trigger, Hangman hits a rolling forearm, then he ends up eating super kicks, a snapdragon, super kick party for a 2 count, and they hit the assisted hanging 450 splash for a 2 count. Hangman avoids a V-trigger, hits a massive lariat, flying double lariat to the Bucks. Hangman does the moonsault to the floor on all 3 guys. Hangman lifts Omega for Deadeyes, but Omega slips out of it. Hangman hits a power bomb for a 2 count. Nick has to break up that. Matt gets tagged in. Matt blocks a buckshot lariat. Hangman avoids another Indie Taker attempt here. And then he hits a double buckshot on Matt and Nick. So Matt ends up getting pinned and eliminated. Omega gets tossed a belt. He tries to use it. Swing and a miss. Hangman hits Deadeyes. And Omega kicks out. JR thought this was the end. He thought that Omega was pinned, but he was not. We get a distraction from Nick, and Omega hits a belt shot for a 2 count. And then Omega hits the one-winged angel and gets the victory. So last men standing were Nick Jackson and Kenny Omega. And Kenny Omega has pinned Hangman Page to finish this match. So now he can't challenge for the title, and the Dark Order don't get their title shots either. So interesting to see where this continues.
And one question that I have is, how long of a period does this apply for? Does it simply mean that right now, while he's ranked number 1, he can't challenge? Or does it mean that he can never challenge so long as Kenny by God Omega is the AEW World Champion?
I mean, that is kind of what it sounds like. That's the best I can come up with, though.
I was wondering, like, the whole way through this match, or not the whole way, but after the double count out, I was wondering, all right, are they going to do something kind of screwy to get Omega out so that your champion doesn't have to eat a pinfall to be eliminated?
Mm-hmm.
Like, will he do something that he thinks is behind the ref's back, but the ref turns around and sees it, and then he gets DQ'd? But then he hits the one-winged angel, and I'm like, all right, this is the middle of the ring. There's no way that, he can get a foot on the rope. Everybody on his team that got eliminated has gone to the back. And I mentioned that everybody on his team that was eliminated went to the back. Matt Jackson, after being eliminated, stayed ringside and then, helped on that triple team just before the shot with the belt. But, I was how are they getting around this? Because Hangman has to wind up winning this thing. He has to. And then he doesn't. And it's like, okay, where is this going? Like, this is long-term booking probably at its finest. Like, we still don't know how it's going to conclude with him finally getting a title shot.
We will have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Next up, Alex Marvez was with Pac. He was by himself, and he said the Lucha Bros are stuck at the airport because somebody canceled their car. And Chavo comes in with Andrade, and he says, I hear your guys have some travel issues. Well, Andrade was nice enough to send your guys a limo. And then he explains what a limo is. And then I couldn't really tell what Andrade was supposed to say or what he was saying. I think what he meant to say was, you should learn to send a driver, because if you don't, they'll work for somebody who will. I believe that was supposed to be the gist of what Andrade said.
That's what I got out of it.
Okay. So we have him, they're messing with the Death Triangle.
And notice he's still referring to the Lucha Bros as working for Pac.
Yes.
They work for you. They should work for somebody that will take care of them.
Mhm.
We sent them a limo. They should come work for us because we'll take care of them.
Taz and the FTW celebration. Taz is like on this big podium thingy, just like as the master of ceremonies. He basically just introduces Ricky. Ricky.
It reminded me of the old Bad News Barrett setup, where he stood up there behind the lectern, banging the gavel. I'm afraid I've got some bad news. Where it's just like this elevated lectern for absolutely no reason.
Yeah, it's like something you would see like a old-timey presidential speech or something.
Yeah.
So Ricky Starks and Hobbs, they come out to the ring. They have a band around the ring for Ricky. A lady gives him some roses and kisses him on the cheek. They get into the ring. Starks says Hobbs isn't there because he's out recruiting. He says that
Hobbs. For some reason, I was getting Hobbs and Hook confused.
Oh, sorry, and that's what I wrote. Ricky and Hook came out to the ring. I wrote
Hook,
Ricky and Hobbs.
Not wearing the hoodie.
Not wearing the hoodie.
Not wearing the hoodie. So you can actually see that, like he's got some muscle on his arms.
Yeah, that kid, he is like defined.
Yeah, but when he's wearing the hoodie, he just like looks like a dude.
So they have the band. Starks says a couple weeks ago he won the FTW title, got rid of some garbage in the process known as Brian Cage. He then says that he's been the glue that has held the group together since day one. He says that, I can forgive some stuff, like when Brian was vanity checking himself in the mirror in the back, or when he cost him a bunch of matches. But when I broke my neck, you didn't even call to check on me. He says, then I realized you're a selfish guy, and I don't want to be around somebody like that. And I also know what it means to be a star, and even when you stood next to me, not a single ounce of charisma rubbed off on you. Cage comes out. He attacks a couple of the band guys. He smashes a drum over a guy's head. He grabs the trombone, and JR had the best line. He says, "There's no place for trombones in wrestling."
Yes. Yeah.
And he snaps it over his...
Every now and then, JR comes off with a good one-liner.
And Cage gets into the ring. He snaps the trombone over his leg. Starks and Hook run away. And that was the end of that.
No cheeseburgers during the celebration.
Nope. And it was short and sweet. This probably took 3 minutes.
Yeah. Really good. It wasn't one of those overly long celebrations that certain companies are known for doing.
Next up, we have a short video sent in from New Japan, and it is Hiroshi Tanahashi. And he basically says he's never held the U.S. title before, and it has a bit of a charm, and he challenges the winner of the U.S. title match tonight to a match. So we have that.
Yep.
Santana Ortiz.
Did you notice they did something during this promo that you've suggested they do for other talent on the roster? He was speaking his native language, and they had to translate the subtitles down at the bottom.
Go figure.
Jay, like they can't do that for other people.
Yeah, Jay in the chat says she screamed when she saw the ace. So next up we had Santana Ortiz versus FTR. We had a bit of a snafu in this match that ended up making the match end early. Ortiz and Wheeler started off. They botch a monkey flip, but it was fine. They covered without any issue. Wheeler just rolled straight to the outside and played it off. So it was fine. It was a botch, but they're professionals, so it was fine.
This is the one where it looked like he just got a foot to the groin.
Yeah, instead of the monkey flip part.
Yeah.
So Santana and Harwood, they both get tagged in. They brawl. Santana Ortiz hit Three Amigos on Dax, assisted powerbomb on Cash, but then Dax comes back, hits a spine buster for a 2. FTR get the heat on Ortiz for a while. Dax does this great snap leg drop that reminded me so much of Stone Cold. Did you catch that move?
I don't recall.
Off
the top of my head.
And with like the leg brace, like it was like Stone Cold written all over it. How he just like did this, this quick snap leg drop. Ortiz eventually gets the hot tag. He goes nuts, including a tope con hero on the over the top rope. Ortiz hits a suicide dive off of a kick out, which was pretty awesome. Santana Ortiz beat the crap out of Dax for a bit. Frog splash from Santana for a 2 count. And then we get a big old breakdown. Everybody's just brawling in the ring. Santana hits a high stack power bomb for a 2. And then Ortiz gets tagged in. Dax tries a roll up. And then here we have Cash gets tagged in, and he goes to the adjacent corner and starts climbing up. He gets knocked off, and his arm actually hit the actual turnbuckle, which is that piece that connects the pad to the post, and that's where you tighten it. So he hit a metal piece in there and sliced his arm open. He immediately looked down, was holding his arm, and he immediately went over to the doctor. So they basically played it off like that tag never happened. And basically we went straight into a finish. Dax hit a vertical brainbuster on Ortiz and pinned him for the victory. Definitely wasn't the way the match was supposed to end. And then they actually showed Dax. He basically ran over to Cash to check on him, and there was blood all over the mat and on his arm. So hopefully nothing super serious, but he did get sliced open, and hopefully they can figure out what sharp object he hit so they can grind that thing down.
Yeah, that's definitely not good when injuries happen, let alone things that aren't supposed to wind up being, injuries or cuts. And I say not supposed to be because we had a death match later where there were all kinds of cuts and blood and the like.
Yeah, I'm assuming it was just a burr on the turnbuckle tensioner, so yeah, he probably just hit it, and they're like, oh, yeah. I mean, those form. I mean, there's not much you can do. Sometimes if you see him, just knock him down with a little file, and you'll be fine. But yeah, just a weird freak accident on that one.
Yeah, but I am wondering, however, if the team that was supposed to win was the team that actually won.
I'm assuming they did, since it was the short man team that won. I would assume if it was Santana Ortiz, then they would have done a double team because they had 2 men on and taken advantage. Right. So,
yeah, okay, never mind. Never mind.
You thought Santana Ortiz won?
Yeah.
I'm guessing they're going to play this match back because it didn't go the way they were planning, and they had to get out of it. So I'm assuming that we're going to get this match again, probably in the next couple weeks, which will be fine because, I mean, Santana Ortiz versus FTR, that's always going to be a good one. So might as well.
Yeah, and you know that the way they wind up, basically requesting or demanding the rematch will be in such a way to where it makes sense storyline instead of just, oh, we lost, we want a rematch.
Yeah.
And Tony Khan agrees.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll finesse something to make it work.
Yeah, and speaking of rematches, I saw a video recently where they were talking about different promotions and how many of the matches that happen on pay-per-view are rematches of matches that have happened on the regular weekly programming.
Mm-hmm.
And with AEW, it's somewhere around like 11%.
Yeah.
And other promotions, it's closer to like 40 or 50.
Yeah. I mean, like, this is AEW is like New Japan. When somebody has a singles match, you can end up remembering most of them. Like, I know that Zack Sabre Jr. and Sonata have only had 7 singles matches ever. Or like, I know that Kenny Omega and Moxley in AEW have only had 2 in 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, these are things I know because they don't do the same match over and over.
Yeah, and even with like tag team matches, FTR and the Young Bucks have had, what was it?
Just one,
or was it 2?
I think just 1.
Yeah. There was, I realized that, Dark used to be like a 24-hour show with 15,000 matches. It's gotten shorter over the last couple of weeks, which is really good, because it's a much more manageable thing when it's 45 minutes or so. The Acclaimed and Varsity Blondes have been having a bit of a feud. They had a 6-man tag match this week, but nobody from the Acclaimed or Varsity Blondes was involved in the decision. So it was the extra guy on both of those teams that was involved in the decision. And if you look at the rankings, they're like number 1 and 2 or 2 and 3. So like, it makes sense for them to be going at each other. I just wish that some of this got told to us on Dynamite.
True. All right, moving on. We have Brit Baker with Tony earlier in the day. She has a cast on her arm. She legit broke her wrist during the match with Nyla last week. She says, Nyla, you prove that you do in fact break bitches, because wasn't it Nyla who ended up tossing her partner onto her to break her knee or tear her ACL or whatever?
Yeah.
She says, but I'm the baddest bitch on the block, and I still tapped you out with a broken freaking wrist. She says that Reba isn't enough to keep her from getting hurt at ringside, so she's going to bring in somebody who will.
Adam Cole.
I've heard the Iconics.
Ooh.
So she'll have like a little faction.
Use that name. I forget what name they're using now. But yeah, the Brit Baker faction, I can dig it.
Yes. So let's see. What are they calling themselves now? Disbandment, blah, 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 blah. I know they're calling them something. I heard it on Renee's podcast. And I can't remember. Oh, the Inspiration.
The Inspiration.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we will see how that goes. They won't be able to come in until like September 3rd or something. So All Out is like the first time they can come in.
Yeah, I was going to say that's like just before All Out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all those 90 days from that big release all end up right before All Out. So that's why people thought Malachi Black was going to be in for All Out, but he had that 30-day escape clause that people didn't know
because when he got called up from NXT, they never changed his contract.
Yep.
And so he still had the NXT 30-day.
Yes. So I'm assuming Ruby Riott or what is she? Ruby Soho is going to be in the Casino Battle Royale. That kind of makes sense.
Ooh.
Let's see. Onward we go. Tony announces Rampage on August 20th will be in the United Center in Chicago. They're calling it The First Dance. Gets a massive CM Punk chant. We can pretty much see where that is going. And then they put a little more on the meal here, and Alex is with Darby and Sting. Darby says, I'll be in Chicago. I know I've been a lot of... I can't even speak today. I've been around a lot of men who have laid claim that they're the greatest. There's only one place to prove that, and that's here in AEW, even if you think you're the best in the world.
Yeah,
I don't know how much thicker
Shane
they can lay this on.
Obviously, Shane McMahon has left his father's company and is coming to AEW.
Yeah, I don't think they can lay it on much thicker, especially if they think they're going to sell a 17,000 seat arena for a secondary show. So
yeah, the first episode of the secondary show.
Second.
Or is it the second?
It's the second.
Okay.
Plus, they're going to have like 3 more shows in Chicago like 2 weeks later. Because they're gonna have Dynamite and then All Out as well in Chicago, and I think they're also doing another Rampage taping before All Out.
And I've heard people suggest, and obviously, like people on the internet don't necessarily know what's happening, but it would be kind of funny if for one of the labors of Jericho, it's not announced the week beforehand, and then, like Jericho's told, go to the ring, and then Cult of Personality comes on, but it's MJF that walks out.
That'd be the greatest
sort of
troll.
The entire audience. Yeah.
So, yeah, a lot of shows in Chicago. They're there for the August 20th, and then they're there for Dynamite on the 1st, Rampage on the 3rd, and All Out on the 5th. So they're having 4 shows in Chicago in the span of like 2 weeks. So hopefully that works out for them.
Yeah, and this was Tony Schiavone that made this announcement. Yep. Weren't we told that Tony Khan was making an announcement?
Yes, but Tony Schiavone said on behalf of Tony Khan. So
okay, I missed that.
Yep.
And that's why I'm like, so was this the big announcement, or is there something else that's getting announced later?
Nope. I was hoping they were going to say that the August 14th show for New Japan was going to be a joint show between AEW and New Japan, but...
Yeah, and there was something that was just said in passing on commentary that confirmed what we have all suspected.
Yeah, that happened in the next match. So the next match was Hikuleo with his father Haku at ringside versus Lance Archer for the IWGP US Heavyweight Championship. During this match, they did mention that the winner of this match, because of the partnership between New Japan and AEW, would be traveling to New Japan to defend the title there next. So,
yeah, and I'm really a little disappointed that Haku went by the name Haku here instead of letting Tony Schiavone yell, "It's Ming!" Like he yells, "It's Sting," but it's Ming.
It's Ming. I got it. Jay says Lance Archer wore his Suzuki-gun shirt to the ring. I didn't even notice the shirt that he was wearing. But good pickup from Jay.
Yes, thank you, Jay. And I'm still amused that Lance Archer and Lance Hoyt are the same person. Because if you watch TNA in like the mid-2000s, Lance Hoyt, he was just like this really tall guy that wasn't really that charismatic or anything, and like he was just kind of there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, wait, and then a few years ago, I'm watching a New Japan show, and I see this guy called Lance Archer, and I'm like, he kind of looks familiar. And I go, oh, that's the same guy. How is that this same guy?
Yep.
Holy fuck.
Yeah. So we have this match, and Archer came out by himself, so no Jake the Snake. Archer goes right to work, hitting a bunch of running back elbows in the corner. He gets up on the turnbuckle and lays in some punches. Haku pulls him off of the corner, hits him with a power bomb. It's not Hikuleo hits him with a power bomb, and there's not too many people who could lift up Lance Archer to give him a power bomb. But Hikuleo is 2 inches taller than Archer is, which is insane because Archer is 6'8", so that would make Hikuleo like 6'10". Massive elbow from Archer. Archer, Hikuleo hits a power slam, little brawling on the outside. Archer throws Hikuleo back into the ring, and the ref is looking or talking to Hikuleo to check on him. Haku attacks Archer from behind, or behind the ref's back, with the Tongan death grip and throws him into the barricade. And then I wrote here, I still want New Japan refs for New Japan title matches when they're in AEW, and I want the count over the house mic, just like they do in New Japan. It just makes it feel more New Japan-y.
Yeah, because they did make sure to mention this match is being contested under New Japan Pro Wrestling rules.
Yep, so 60-minute time limit, 20 count on the outside, which is the differences between New Japan and most U.S. promotions.
And also titles change on disqualification.
Correct. So Archer does the walk rope into the middle, hits the moonsault press. Archer tries to get Hikuleo up for the blackout, but can't. Ends up hitting him with a superplex, which is a crap ton of weight coming down off that top turnbuckle. It's probably like 600 plus pounds. It gets a 2 count, and then Archer sets him up on the top rope again and pulls him off, hits the blackout, and gets the win. Lance Archer retains the IWGP US Heavyweight Championship, and he's going to go on to face Hiroshi Tanahashi on the August 14th show in Los Angeles.
Yep, good match. I'm wondering if some of the highlights of that New Japan show will be shown on AEW.
Maybe. Or if they even give it a little bit of promotion on the Dynamite before that Saturday.
Yeah.
I think it's on Saturday, right? Yes, it's on Saturday. Next up, we have Alex Marvez. He is backstage in gorilla position, which actually they call Dusty position in AEW. Cody...
Commentary just called it go.
Yeah, the go position. But apparently it's instead of the gorilla position, it's the Dusty position in honor of Dusty Rhodes. Cody, who is at production, he has headphones on and is there. Usually Tony Khan is sitting there, but he was there with
Tony was 2 seats over.
Oh, was he? I didn't notice him. So he was on the other side of Jerry Lynn then, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and they had the little paper name plaques above, so that Cody's here, Jerry's here, Tony's here.
Okay, I must have looked away right as he was on the frame, because Tony was not in frame very long. So Alex is asking him a question, and before Cody can really say anything, Malachi Black attacks Cody. They fight out onto the stage. The live crowd boos Cody whenever he does anything and cheers Malachi Black. And Malachi Black lays out Cody. He crouches down next to him and says, "Welcome to the House of Black." And he's just standing there, and then a bunch of people come out to try to separate them, and Fuego del Sol gets killed by Malachi Black with what used to be called a black mass, and I have no idea what they haven't given it a proper name yet in AEW, but that's what it was, the spinning heel kick. And that was that. Fuego del Sol was pretty much dead.
The luchador from Mobile, Alabama.
And then wrestled later on in the dark match.
So he's not dead.
He is not dead.
He's not actually dead.
Nope. Mobile's best luchador is what Jay wrote in the chat.
If you watch Dark, Excalibur keeps referencing that he's not the most popular luchador in Mobile, Alabama. He is the most popular luchador from some place in Florida that I don't think is even actually a town.
Yeah, he's friends with Sammy Guevara. You see him on his blog channel quite a lot, or vlog. Next up, we had, again, an awesome Miro promo, and they address why he hasn't defended the title for a while. He says, The TNT title is known as an open challenge, but ever since I won it, suddenly all these challenges have dried up. But next week, God's favorite champion will fight, but not because Lee Johnson asked for it. Clearly that man has talents, but Lee, you cannot take my divine right away from me. Nobody can, and you all know it. I'm a simple man, and only two things motivate me in my life. That is a vengeful God and a double-jointed wife. So if you think you have what it takes, you can either run away or face me like a champion. But either way, a glorious reckoning is upon you. This is the word of the Redeemer.
Yeah, this Miro is the best Miro. And I love how he always makes references to his very flexible wife and his double-jointed wife.
And his hot wife.
Yeah. Yes, his hot wife. Yeah, it's just amazing.
Her contract is also, her 90 days is also up right before All Out as well. Just putting it out there.
Ooh.
Yeah, this Miro is great, and even given that English is a second language, he has a very large vocabulary.
Yeah.
Next up, we have a Private Party and Angelico with Matt Hardy at ringside versus Christian Cage, Jungleboy, and Luchasaurus with Marco Stunt coming out with them. Christian starts it off, but soon tags out to Jungleboy. They get the heat on Jungleboy for quite a while. Marco and Christian actually run off Matt Hardy at one point when he tries to get involved. Luchasaurus gets the hot tag, destroys everybody, destroys Private Party and Angelico, and gives them a triple suplex. So he grabbed the waist of one of them, and they in turn tried to grab onto their buddy, who then grabbed onto their other buddy, and they all got suplexed as one big happy family. And Private Party, they both flip out of a double chokeslam attempt. Jungleboy dives on Cassidy and Angelico on the outside, and Luchasaurus drops Mark Quinn, and Christian tags in, hits a frog splash, gets the victory. This was kind of a throwaway match. It was fine and didn't really move anything along except for right after the match.
Yeah, it was okay. Commentary seemed kind of checked out during the match, because at one point they were talking about somebody's head of hair, and I kind of checked out, and I even wrote in the chat last night, like, this match has lost my attention. And then immediately is when Christian tagged in, hit the frog splash, gets the pin, and then I said, glad it's over.
Yeah, so afterwards, Christian's on the outside. A hooded man jumps through the crowd, and he punches Christian Cage, and he's knocked out. And it is the Blade with the brass knuckles. This being, of course, one of the mercenaries of the Hardy family office. So that is where it's going. So we're going to see Blade and Christian next week.
It's confirmed that the Blade has more than one pair of brass knuckles. Because Orange Cassidy stole his pair last week. So unless Cassidy wound up giving them back to the Blade for some reason, the Blade has multiple pairs of brass knuckles.
I heard a wrestling company recently ran into a little bit of an issue with brass knuckles in Maryland, because brass knuckles, just a simple possession, is illegal in Maryland.
Same in New Hampshire.
Is it really?
Unless you have a hunting or fishing license and are going to, or in the act of, or coming from hunting or fishing.
Well, that's kind of strange considering you can carry a gun basically everywhere.
Yeah, I know. Metallic knuckles are illegal in New Hampshire, and based on court law, that has been interpreted to mean if you have a knife with an integral knuckle duster,
Mm-hmm.
That knife then becomes illegal because the handle is considered metallic knuckles.
I'm curious when the last time they've ever even prosecuted somebody for that.
Good question.
It probably comes in as a secondary charge and never a primary.
Probably.
All right, we have a Nick Gage video package showing some highlights of his exploits, and he says that Jericho won't see labor number 3. It was fine. Next up, we had Julia Hart versus Thunder Rosa. We had a quick promo from Griff and Pillman hyping Julia. Julia didn't say a word in this inset promo. And then Thunder Rosa, when she's coming out, she also gets a little inset, basically saying that now she's a contracted wrestler for All Elite Wrestling. And that was pretty much it. She's going to work her way towards the championship. That's what she wants.
Yep. And isn't she the number 1 ranked female?
I am not sure. Rankings as of July 28th. Yes, she is. 20-2.
Yeah, I think she mentioned being ranked number 1.
Yeah.
When she gets her match against Brit, probably All Out?
That's what I'm assuming. Which is a bummer, because I want Thunder Rosa to be the one to take the title off of Brit. And I want that to be like at Double or Nothing instead of All Out. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
What difference does it make which one of the major shows? Or you just want Britt to hold the belt for basically a full year?
Yeah, I want Britt to hold on to the belt. I don't want. I want her to drop it to Thunder Rosa, but I don't want it to happen at All Out.
Okay.
Yeah. So Thunder Rosa, she takes control quickly. She hits a running clothesline in the corner, then a double knees to the chest, and then some forearms. Julia avoids the basement drop kick, gives Rosa a clothesline in the corner. Rosa grabs a knee bar. Julia makes it to the ropes, and then Rosa hits the basement drop kick in the corner. She always lays that one in. She like destroys people. And then hits the Fire Thunder Driver. Thunder Rosa gets a victory in short order.
Yep, roughly a 5-minute match, which, when the U.S. title match started right at 9 o'clock, I was like, all right, so based on how many matches are left, they'll probably wind up cutting something short, probably do a 5-minute women's match, 20 to 25 minutes for the main event. And that's basically what happened, is a 5-minute women's match, 20 minutes for the main event.
Yeah, and the 10 minutes for Private Party and Angelico. Jurassic Express match. So they announced the card for next week. We have Malachi Black versus Cody Rhodes. We have Miro versus Lee Johnson for the TNT Championship. We have the Bunny versus Layla Hirsch as the number 1 contenders match to the NWA Championship. And Christian Cage versus The Blade. So we have 4 matches announced for next week.
So real quick, sort of backing up, but also looking forward, since Hangman can't challenge for the world title, he's number 1, Jungleboy's number 2, but he's already faced Kenny.
Mm-hmm.
Christian is number 3, and currently undefeated.
Yep.
If he beats the Blade, does that by default make him the number 1 contender?
Yeah, I wouldn't
Not
be
necessarily number 1 ranked, but the number 1 contender.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that would then move Christian to have a match with Kenny on the first or second Rampage.
And then Darby is number 3. Orange Cassidy number 5.
Yeah, and Orange
Or
Cassidy.
Darby number 4. Orange Cassidy number 5.
Yeah, and Orange Cassidy still needs his singles match with Kenny. So does Pac, even though he is not on the top 5. Most likely, Pac would be sitting at 6 if it went farther.
Yeah.
I mean, all the so I'm just while we're looking at the rankings, Brit is probably going to have to turn back harder towards heel because all 5 are baby faces.
Yeah, we've got Thunder Rosa, Ty Conti, Chris Statlander, Hikaru Shida, and Red Velvet.
Yeah, so she's probably got to turn back towards the heel side. I wouldn't be surprised if she buries her own town when they go to Pittsburgh. Not this coming week, but the following week on the 11th. If she's like, yeah, I left this town and moved to Florida, so suck it, or whatever.
So that would be very Kurt Angle-like.
Yep.
And like the I won the match with a broken freaking wrist.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of already, does that a little bit. So yeah, I could see her making a heel turn.
Yep. To turn her back harder heel. She was kind of situationally the babyface against Nyla, and she needs to basically go back heel for everybody else.
Yeah.
All right, we then have a quick promo video from Moxley. They introduced it like he was going to talk about Nick Gage, which he didn't mention at all.
Right, because the Gage Jericho match was coming up, and they said, oh, and a man that is familiar with both of these guys, Jon Moxley.
I thought he was going to say something about both of them, but no.
I was thinking he'd say, like, Nick Gage is a bad son of a bitch, and watch out because you never know what he's gonna do. And Jericho is tough in his own right, blah blah blah. But don't worry, I'm coming after both of you.
So what he actually
what
he actually talks about is, I was sitting in the airport bar and looked up and saw the Olympics on the TV, and how did everybody get over to Japan? I can't get into Japan. My calls aren't being returned. My contracts are being returned unsigned. And then he says, and then after I no longer have the US title, suddenly, Tanahashi, you come crawling. And Tanahashi, you've been ducking me. And now that I don't have the title, suddenly you want a shot at the title. He says that I have a stack of contracts this high, which is like 1.5 feet, that I've had FedExed over to Japan, and he's got a lot of unfinished business over there. And he says the forbidden door is open. I am the forbidden door, and while it may be open, there's nothing good on the other side for any of you.
Yeah,
that was awesome. That was great.
Yeah, and it's already been established that the talent watched the show.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he referenced in his promo a promo from earlier in the night leads us to believe that, yep, he's watching the show, and this wasn't sent in via tape, like he's somewhere in the building and cut this promo live, even though we know that it was recorded. But yeah, really good, and again, a good reference of mentioning things that have happened earlier in the show.
Yeah, I am hoping, but it would be rough if he is going to do the G1 again, because I want him to do the G1. But considering that he just had a baby, and that would mean he'd have to be in Japan for like 6 weeks because he has the 2-week quarantine first and then a month for the G1, I'm not sure if he would do it.
But isn't there talk of an America bracket that could potentially take place in LA where they filmed New Japan Strong?
Actually, they have already released the dates. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 dates. They're all in Japan, so not going to happen.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So next up, we had Chris Jericho, the second labor of Jericho, versus Nick Gage in a no disqualification match or a no rules match. They were kind of waffling back and forth on what they wanted to call it, but same thing. MJF comes out in commentary carrying a bucket of popcorn, and he's on commentary for the whole match. And they start off right away. Nick Gage pulls a pizza cutter out of his pants pocket, and he takes a swipe at Jericho and gets him right in the bicep. And he is bleeding 2 seconds into the match. They throw hands. Gage
from the right bicep, and he's still got the left the left elbow all wrapped up from dislocating that. So like he's basically got 2 bum arms at this point.
I would be really pissed. Well, one, Jericho probably said do it on the right because he has a tattoo on the left. I would be pissed if somebody sliced my tattoo.
Yeah.
I spent so much, and I have a little scratch through one of them, and I'm pissed off at that. They throw hands. Gage hits a running knee. On the outside they go.
He dropped the pizza cutter before they started throwing hands.
Right. Well, Jericho hit one punch, and that he dropped the pizza cutter there. Gage hits a running knee in the corner. On the outside, Gage is thrown in the barricade a bit. Jericho goes up top, but Gage follows and gives Jericho a superplex and then a Falcon Arrow for a 2 count. Jericho grabs on a Walls of Jericho, and Gage goes to the ropes, grabs the ropes, and the ref's like, it's a no DQ, so there's no rope break, so you are SOL. So Nick pulls himself to the ropes and pulls himself under the ropes to basically break that up.
One thing that I really liked is on commentary, of course, JR and Tony are pointing out, like, there's no rope breaks in a no DQ, no rules match.
Mm-hmm.
But then MJF is like, no, like this is wrong. The ref should be stepping in here. Anytime Jericho, sort of like got the upper hand, he's talking about how like the ref should step in and he can't do that. That's against the rules. So very great heel commentary from MJF.
They fight on the outside. Jericho punches Gage in the head a bit. Jericho is then run into the post. Gage looks for some plunder and pulls out some light tubes. Throws them into the ring. Jericho is on the opposite side of the ring on the outside. He pulls out Floyd the Bat, and they both get into the ring. Gage is unaware that Jericho has grabbed the bat, and when he turns around, Jericho buries the bat into Gage's stomach, hits him a few more times with it. Gage hits a choke breaker, which is the move that ended Brian Alvarez's career. That's what finished him off in his final match. Then takes out a pizza cutter and starts raking it across Jericho's forehead a bunch of times. Jericho is bleeding like crazy. I'm pretty sure this got a "you sick fuck" chant. Gage throws some chairs into the ring, grabs a light tube. Jericho blocks it. Gage sets a chair on Jericho and just hits an elbow drop onto the chair on Jericho. And then Gage puts 2 chairs facing each other, and he pulls out a pane of glass and sets it up in the space between the 2 chair seats. Jericho is set up on the top rope, but Jericho gets out of it, and he ends up hitting Gage with a top rope Rana through the glass. Covers, only gets a 2 count. Jericho grabs a chair, hits Gage with it. Jericho goes for a code breaker, but Gage drops Jericho into the shattered glass, grabs a light tube, smashes it over Jericho's head, and then another one. Gage hits a pile driver onto the glass. Jericho kicks out at 2. Gage stabs Jericho in the head with the broken light tube a few times, and then Gage goes outside, throws a couple bundles of light tubes into the ring. Jericho then spits mist into Nick Gage's face, smashes him with one of the bundles of the light tube, hits the Judas effect, and gets the victory. I love trash wrestling, so I love this match. I thought it was great.
Yeah, one thing that I'm mildly, I don't want to say disappointed, but something that I thought would happen that didn't, because it's happened in a bunch of other Nick Gage matches, where Nick Gage shoves the pizza cutter in their mouth. He did not do that to Jericho. And of course, MJF not happy about the finish of this match at all. Yeah, it was more wrestling during this match than I thought there would be. So I would say that, as death matches go, this was a nice blend between death match and wrestling.
Yeah, and I mean, given that it was AEW, I'm guessing most of these things were at least gimmicked to an extent. I'm guessing that they drilled the ends of the light tubes to release the gas and flush them of anything that was toxic beforehand. I'm guessing that the pizza cutter that Gage was using on Jericho's head was a second pizza cutter, because he pulled that out of his pocket after he had already lost the first one. So I'm guessing the first one wasn't, so he could get the gash on his arm, and then I think the other one was dulled. And of course they use tempered glass, which is what they always use, which shatters into a bunch of tiny pieces, and they're usually not sharp. Sometimes they can be, but most of the time they're just kind of like little round pieces of glass.
If you were a fan of ECW in the 90s, this is basically somewhat comparable to some of the ECW stuff.
Might turn up just a little bit, so heading more into the CZW realm, but not by much.
Well, I'm also thinking, like, the first ECW match with the pizza cutter that comes to mind for me is the mass transit incident.
Yeah.
And this would probably be a little closer to that. Minus the spurting blood and 17-year-old kid almost dying in the ring. But yeah, like it's definitely not Tournament of Death.
Yeah, these are all superficial cuts, so we'd be all right. I haven't seen any Twitter posts from Jericho of pictures. I'm guessing they're out there, but I just haven't checked. So I thought this match was fine. It was toned back a bit from what you've seen in some of the CZW Tournament of Death type of stuff, and kind of made to be as safe as you can be with this type of match. Obviously, this match isn't for everybody, but yes, there was a lot more wrestling in it, and I kind of want to see Nick Gage and Chris Jericho in just a regular match to see what happens.
Yeah. I am curious, since we know that AEW wrestlers are allowed to do some independent work. Could Jericho possibly make an appearance at a GCW show?
Or some other independent that Nick Gage is at.
Yeah. And then MJF gets up from commentary to announce the third labor.
Yeah, he grabs the house mic and says, "Chris, you're sitting there in more pain than you ever felt in your life, but we both know that you're never going to get to wrestle me, especially since what I have in store for you for Labor number 3. They cut back to an old promo where Chris Jericho is making fun of MJF. This is all basically 2 years ago at this point, a little less. And he's talking about how his parents conceived him while watching a Juventud Guerrera match when Jericho was beating up Juventud Guerrero in WCW. So it cuts back, and the next match is indeed going to be Juventud Guerrera. And so that is what's up for the third Labor of Jericho. And the only way he can win is by hitting a maneuver off of the top rope.
Yeah. And the last couple of matches, we've seen Jericho hit a maneuver off the top rope.
He hit Rana's off the top in the last 2 matches.
Yeah. That would be a maneuver off the top rope. So if he could use that as a finisher.
Yeah. So, let's see. As far as ratings go, we can talk about those quickly. 1 point.
Although I would love to see Jericho try to go coast to coast.
I don't think he has the leg strength to do that, unfortunately.
Not anymore. It would be funny to see him try. But yeah, most likely he'll hit a Rana.
So, AEW ratings, 1.108 million viewers. So it was down 3.5% from last week, but we have 3 weeks in a row of over 1 million viewers. And actually, the 18 to 49 rating was up a 0.45, and they were actually up in actual viewers as well. 582,000 people in that demo, which is really, really good number. Year over year.
Also, we've got the Olympics going on right now.
Yep.
So when you've got 6 or 7 channels of Olympic coverage during prime time.
With like a combined audience of like 10 million people watching the Olympics.
Yeah, the ratings for other sporting events are going to go down.
Year over year, they're up 43.3% in overall viewership and up 50% in the 18 to 49 demo. So they are looking pretty, and that's pretty much their second highest demo rating ever.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you have the quarters by chance?
No, they come out a few days later, so we probably won't have those until tomorrow night or the night after or Monday.
Yeah, I'm just curious what the final quarter winds up doing. Like, did that gain or drop viewers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that turns out, how those quarters play. So,
yeah, and I did something yesterday that I don't normally do because I happened to have clicked on YouTube just a few minutes before Fightful Select did a live stream. And at some point during the thing, there was a question about viewership of different shows, and Sean Ross Sapp projects that before the end of the year, the highest quarter of AEW will outperform the lowest quarter of Monday Night Raw.
It's looking like it could probably happen. I'm checking YouTube right now. Of the clips from last night's show, the Painmaker versus Nick Gage is double the next closest one. 500,000 views on that clip. The next closest is 273. So lots of people checking out that clip.
Nice. So the 7... Well, what's the other number that they do? Like a 7-day post live or whatever?
Yeah, including DVR numbers, they're usually sitting at 1.4, 1.5 million viewers.
Yeah, so if they're already getting a lot of hits on YouTube. You know that people are then going to try finding it either from, uh, like with Xfinity, there's shows where you can just like watch the most recent episode for some number of days, where you don't even have to set it to record.
Yep.
So yeah, I could see that number going up and actually being higher than what it has been.
Yep. So yeah, interesting to see. Everything seems to be firing on all cylinders for AEW at this point. Massive August coming up, massive signings. Of course, this still everybody assuming Bryan Danielson has signed as well. So yeah. Also, Jay in the chat said that MJF actually made reference to the CM Punk pipe bomb. He said one of the lines, "I hope you are as uncomfortable as possible." And then she quoted, "Chris, as you sit there in more pain than you've ever been in your entire life, I want you to listen to me." And then Punk said in his that, "John Cena, while you're laying there, hopefully as comfortable as possible, I want you to listen to me." So kind of a little bit of a parallel to some of the words from the pipe bomb. So a little CM Punk teaser in there. Oh, something that was a funny coincidence that happened on TNT. I did not know about this because I watched the fight feed. But when Nick Gage started slicing up Jericho with the pizza cutter, they went to commercial. The first commercial was for Domino's Pizza.
Yeah.
Which is just funny.
Yeah, and you know that that's not an act. Like somebody was like, "Oh, let's play the Domino's ad during this segment."
Yes. So anything else you want to cover before we wrap it up here?
I am curious when the Varsity Blondes and the Acclaimed are going to wind up having a match, because they're number 1 and number 2. This needs to play out on Dynamite instead of just on Dark.
They have been exchanging barbs over there. I saw somebody suggested there should be a AEW Dark title.
Ooh.
Just so they can have, stuff that is exclusively to Dark and doesn't flow over, and, you kind of get a little bit in there.
I still have not watched much Dark Elevation because that's still 2 hours
of squash matches.
But between 90 minutes to 2 full hours, and it's just I don't necessarily want to do that. The commentary isn't that great on either of the shows. I can only take so much Taz commentary. They've been bringing Ricky Starks on for at least one match and calling it AEW Starks while he's out there, and he's a good promo. He's not a good commentator for matches.
Yeah. All right. So we will be, I think the next thing, we'll be back with AEW next week. Most likely the next New Japan coverage is going to be after the show in Los Angeles. So I'm guessing August 16th, Monday the 16th is probably the next time we'll have coverage there. We'll cover the Los Angeles show, and we'll cover the Junior Tag League up till that point, because that'll be about halfway done after that. And then the Junior Tag League wraps up at the end of August, and then we have the 2 Dome shows at the beginning of September for New Japan as well. And those Dome shows are going to be interesting how they play out. Unfortunately, one of the matches is Evil versus Shingo for the title, and nobody really gives a shit about that one.
Let me ask a programming question.
Mm-hmm.
Once Rampage begins, will That's Wrestling be doing Rampage reviews as well?
We're going to have to figure that out. Let's see what Rampage looks like. And either it's going to be wrapped into the Dynamite coverage, or maybe we'll do, probably that. That'd probably be the most likely.
Rampage is 2 days later.
Yeah. So I am not sure. Let's figure that out. Let's see what the show looks like, and then we'll figure it out from there.
Okay.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening to That's Wrestling. If you have any comments, questions, feedback, you can send those to eric@thatswrestling.com. If you want to join us live when we do the show, we're on Twitch and on YouTube. You can follow the links in the show notes to those channels. It will let you know as soon as we go live over on Twitch, or even when we schedule a live stream on YouTube. I try to do that at least an hour beforehand. Follow us on Twitter @thatswrestling1. I also put up when we're going live there and give you the link to the YouTube and the Twitch. And you can come hang out in our Discord. Link is in the show notes. And if you still can't find the RSS feed for the podcast, you can go to thatswrestling.com, though it's on like 80 different platforms at this point, so it should be, if you listen to podcasts on any major platform, you should be able to find us. So for Darryl W. Perry, you can find him at Darryl W. Perry on Twitter. My name's Eric LaRoche. You've been watching and listening to That's Wrestling. See you later, guys.